Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another last Epoch video build guide, and in this one we're going to talk about David Arbor's very own unique, the Wraithlord's Arbor. I am a big fan of this helmet. I think it's a fantastic ability in the game, and I'm absolutely loving the playstyle of this. However, there's a couple different variations of how you can play this, and the TLDR of those playstyles is, well, you have two minions making him shoot the necrotic beams all the time. That's a really cool playstyle. Kind of generic, has some troubles with large packs of enemies due to the cast attack speed versus the amount of projectiles he can actually shoot or targets he can hit per cast, making you be able to be swarmed or overrun with enemies. Now, obviously, there are some benefits to this as well compared to the other styles, which is that you can use a one-hander and a shield to get some better layers of defense to compensate for the fact that you don't have an army of minions blocking the enemy's aggro. The other two playstyles is using Aberrant's Call. Now, Aberrant's Call is a pretty cool item. It allows you to have maximum wraiths up to 12, which can put you at 20 wraiths, actually. It gives you some level of wraiths, but your minions will now lose 6% of their current life per second, and they get minion melee damage nowadays, as it was nerfed. So the two playstyles is making flame wraiths with this, which I tried and cried. Don't do it. It's shit. I don't like it. Anyways, the third one, which is the one I'm going to show you today, is melee necrotic. It was the theoretical approach I had before the actual game launched, and this is now going to be a basically a finalized version of this. Now, before I show you in game the entire approach of this build, I wanted to tackle a couple of quick notes. The helmet is obviously a mandatory build-enabling unique. You need to get this. You can farm this in the Black Sun area. You can get Ascendant Runes to find it, or Prophecies if you're playing Circle of Fortune, or, you know, if you're a Trade Andy, you can just buy it. So that's the first one. This means I would recommend using a leveling guide before you get to the point of being able to use it. I'm strongly recommending the fact that you should go low life with this. The problem with low life is that you're going to need an Exsanguinous. I have a pretty good one, as you might see here. And then you want to have Last Steps of the Living, or you want to also have the experimental modifier Gloves on top of this to get you more health turned into ward. If you can get your hands on a Frostbite Shackles, that would be great, which now puts a lot of pressure on getting a ton of extra cold resistance to retain that ward, which is why I'm sitting on 5.5k. This is in pretty bad gear, except for some of the uniques, and the Exsanguinous is pretty good. However, to get the Last Steps of the Living like this can be a bit tricky and can take a few tries. Now, obviously, the Last Steps of the Living is a 50% drop chance from Formosus himself, which is very easy to farm. And in the same area, you drop the from the same boss, you drop the Frostbite Shackles. And in the same area, you farm the Exsanguinous. So basically, what I'm saying, you're going to want to make sure that Blood, Frost, and Death is your literal home if you want to play this build. Now, I prefer the low life style. You can do different variations, start off with life base and go from there. I would recommend going with Ambitions of an Erased. A big shout out to Fitz PL from my Twitch chat who recommended this. The +1 Acolyte skill, not so important. But what you want to get here is a variety of different stats that can compensate stats elsewhere, like Cold Rest for even more war retention, HP, Intelligence, minion damage, minion health reading can be decent as well. So I'm going to show you some rundown of the actual gear before I show you the gameplay footage to fully understand what is actually going on. So the Wraithlord helmet, what it does, it makes me summon a big Wraithlord instead. As you can see, he's losing HP. He doesn't do this normally, actually, but it's because of my weapon that makes him lose HP. To prevent him from having super low life and then being able to be more of a risk of getting one shot, I made sure that there would be at least one modifier somewhere on my gear with minion health regen to counteract the degen from the percent HP of his current life. So he's going to land, in this case, with my current gear, around 35-ish% HP left before that's going to stop degenning him. This also means that my Dreadshade approach to him is going to be scaling more based off the per 3% missing HP. So it actually works very well in hand to do this specific approach. Besides this, he will then cast Necrotic Beams when you have max amount of Wraiths. This is a really cool ability, and he will leech his HP to full when this happens. However, the idea with this style is not the Necrotic Beam focus. We're going to be having him summon every single one of your wraiths, because as soon as there's a target nearby, he will start summoning wraiths for you. They will sustain through leeching and do a stupid amount of damage, and they'll be very fast because you get movement speed from both the helmet and your weapon for other reasons. from other sources, and it's just absolutely cool how to see this. And this allows you to not spend the mana or think about the mana to sustain him, which allows us to use something like a harvest to make sure our minions get extra crit. We do this through a node here. I'm going to go through the skills in a bit. So essentially the playstyle is very automated in the sense that your Wraithlord is summoning your minions. You are going to cast a curse or harvest if there's enemies nearby. Don't stand face tanking them. You're not going to survive. You're not a tank, okay? There are other builds for that. This is a minion build. And if your Wraithlord manages to die, you just summon a new one, put a new Dread Shade on him, and keep playing. It's all automated. It's very, very comfortable. But idols, you want to have at least one of these large ones giving you mark for death on hit. Since you have so many minions hitting and tanking for you, you're going to have this. HP important. Rest should be HP and ward retention, like this one. You can have a second one with the mark for hit, but one should be enough. And the stout idols should be double HP. So like this one, but with much better rolls. I don't have that across the board. I'm not entirely capped on rest right now, but on void at least. So that's the current state of my gear. One modifier on one of your piece with the minion health region. The rest of your prefixes should be minion health, minion damage, and in some cases intelligence, which I put on my rings. I even have a rare one, not even exalted. That's how bad my gear is. And outside of that, if you are able to get health rolls on your rings without that impacting your resistances, get that. And then sort a crit avoidance modifier somewhere on your gear, which I have here. And the blessings are going to cover through void resistance on the first one from Black Sun. We're going to have crit avoidance, Reign of Dragons. We're going to run lightning rest as well as cold rest for obvious reasons, and obviously minion damage. So that's how the blessing is set up as well. So enough blabbering. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the skills, and then I'm going to show you some gameplay footage and explain how the build feels. First off, we're going to be making sure we get +2 extra maximum wraiths. That means we spec out through necrotic damage. We also make sure they get some leech. 1 point is enough to make him cast all of them reasonably fast. And then 1 point in movement speed is more than enough. And we want to have all of these crit nodes to make sure we have as much crit as possible for the wraiths. And then obviously more melee attack speed. Any extra points after this will go into this node right here because of the relic that we have. Because that's the one way of us getting some good juicy sustain every 2 seconds. This makes it not tanky because it's a 2 second cooldown, but it gives us a reasonable sustain. It gives us a very large chunk of war that we can sustain on in the higher corruption pushing, even though I have pretty bad gear. The transplant is very generic. Go for Rain of Blood, Doombringer, AoE. Make sure you have the haste and frenzy for clear speed purposes and cooldown reduction. Just generic bone armor and armor stuff here, as you mostly see in minion builds. Bone Curse, similar thing here. We go for Necrotic. We have armor shred, extra damage, and a kill threshold. The Dread Shade is also very straightforward. Buff effect for missing HP, AoE. Run the Lone Watcher. Make sure you get affected by it as well. Harvest is the little tricky one. Like I said, you don't want to go into head first into tanking enemies. The main important part here is that you want to put 2 points in the finality so that you can get Legion of the Lich. Once you've crit with Harvest, and you're going to get a lot of crit from the shared minion crits and crit to yourself modifiers, allows you to give 250% crit to your minions. And then having this one to make your minions prioritize your target and make them take extra damage. This is then combined with you getting ward on hitting enemies, and also having base crit and global critical strike chance increase for the harvest. Now, I will be making a written guide for this, which will be linked in the descriptions down below. And if you're watching this video later, further down the road, make sure you check the written guide in case there are any changes. But as of the moment that this is posted on YouTube, there will be a planner linked in down in the descriptions below, which should be accurate based on what I've been doing in-game. I'm going to show you in-game right now. You summon a Wraith, you cast a Dread Shade on him, you just run, curse and harvest, and stay the fuck away from tanking enemies. Let me show you a map or a monolith run. This is 201 corruption, and then I'm going to show you a Shade of Orbis, and we'll see how this goes despite my lack of gear right now. We'll see how it feels. Summon the Wraithlord, put a Dread Shade on him, and you see how he summons all the guys? That's it. Make sure you curse. If you're able to sneak in a harvest here and there, you'll do that. That's mainly for bossing. See how this feels. Pick this up. And as you can see, the damage is absolutely there. No problems. Curse. Use your transplant. The transplant is just going to be there to make sure you move your minions. That's why it's so important you get that on the low life. You go low life with this. If you don't like that, you have your transplant on cooldown. You can always resummon your Wraithlord and having him immediately prep for it. So again, you can see the ward, how every 2 seconds something dies. Oh, I take the potion there, my bad. Every 2 seconds, either something dies or one of my minions dies, and the result is that I get a ton of ward. I'm not sustaining 6,000 ward, but I'm getting a bump up to that number consistently. I've seen me hit 8,500 ward at most so far. It's been pretty crazy. But let me show you the boss instead. I'm going to give you a couple more maps to show you some more gameplay footage, because that one was kind of short. But let me go for a Shade of Oribus. You don't want to tank all of his abilities. It's not a tank build. Keep that in mind. Let's get him away. Want to keep him away a little bit like this. No, I said get away. All right, whatever. Just tank him then. Jesus Christ, you dumb fuck. And now I can harvest a little bit. Well, I think he should be dead, right? No, I didn't even see it. Yep. Anyways. So the damage is there. And again, I'm lacking a ton. And I mean a ton of damage output from a lot of sources. Like, it just does so much damage. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, the Necro Beam version also does a ton of bad damage and doesn't need a ramp up of summoning all of these wraiths for you. Let me show you some more maps, because there are some situations that can be a bit tricky when you're playing the low life, and that's because you cannot be face tanking the enemies. So make sure you just don't do that. As you can see here, you don't need to like spam the wraiths either, or sorry, the harvest. You just need to hit it every now and then if you want to. It's mainly for bossing, because you don't need to have that extra crit when you're clearing a map, for example. So here's a good example of where I need to use a transplant to move him. I don't think he's with me fast enough, so then I'll just resummon him and put a new red shade on him. So like I said, anytime you want to move your minions, you transplant with the experimental mod, and your minions will be with you. Move to the next pack, curse, harvest. If it's too slow for you or it's on cooldown, that's when you just resummon him, and he'll just cast new ones. I'll do this. Oh, get some new boys out there. He's not with me? Good, I'll just summon a new one. All fine. Transplant. And you see the damage output? It's just ridiculous. Apparently we're done already. Let me show you this guy here. So that's an Exile Mage at 200 corruption in kind of half decent gear. It's just it's fun. I don't know what else to say. It's a very enjoyable build. Anyways, I don't want to drag out this video too much. I will be making a written guide for this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe for more content. And if you guys haven't tried Last Epoch yet, we do have a Nexus store where you can actually buy the game and support the stream at the same time. So do check out that link. All the links in the descriptions below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Till then, as always, stay safe and keep rocking.